And good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with your Sensei Al Bob. And things fall apart when you start loving. And the unipolar transa- transnational global oligarch of the hidden hand, which many people hate it when I say that. How can that happen? People would talk about it. Well, people do talk about it. The fact is that the general public watches propaganda. If you're watching NBC or CNN or MSNBC or Fox News or any of the entities on the internet, just like mine, these are all people's basic opinions, right? I think my opinion is not correct, but it's at least interesting. And so we had one person there. They didn't even leave a thumbs up. And, so I get very little traffic, because people want me to tell you a story. Well, I do tell you a story. This is a story of um, end of days. But see, someone asked Jesus, so when's end of times? When's end of days? And Jesus said, oh, that's beyond my pay scale. Meaning it's never going to happen. Guys, don't you realize that we live in a facsimile? You know, the kids who made the movie The Matrix, the three, well, I guess it's now four movies, pretty much got it right. I mean, yes, details or aesthetic appreciations, but the whole idea that and we're not even a soul trap, we're in a spirit trap because you aren't your body. First off, everyone thinks that they're body. No, I've done so many times. I know I'm not my body, right? My endocrinologist constantly kids me by saying I'm the healthiest dead guy he knows. I just went to my doctor the other day, and you know, he's constantly amazed. My legs should have been cut off years ago. I should be dead, but I'm not because when I did die in 2014, I was given the choice because I am the decider. We're all the deciders. See, and you don't decide whether you want, the red kicks or the blue kicks. You decide what you want to be, what you want to do, how you want to exist in your spirit life, right? But we don't even have contact. And our dreams are like, hey, yo, look, you got a spirit over here. Look at this. Hey, and nobody remembers their dreams. When I go to sleep, I meditate, I pray, and I visualize remembering my dreams. So, every morning I wake up like this, like in screaming pain, right? Because the only reason I'm alive is that I can, manifest homeostasis in my body. I mean, my liver, my kidney, my pancreas, they are all damaged by the 20 years of the hedonist corporate life I led, which was, hey, I do not feel bad about a single slice of that.
Here you are.
Oh, here's my lunch. Oh, yummy.
Really good.
Oh, yeah, baby.
Alrighty.
Thank you,
Okay, I'm
darling.
here with your other ticket.
Yep,
Can I
yep.
get you anything else? Do you want
No,
to
no,
keep
no.
that?
Oh, yeah, I'll keep that.
Okay.
And I'll have
More coffee?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I'll take a knife.
Okay, sure. I think I forgot your knife.
Mhm. Anyway, so this is like, look at this lunch. Ooh, this is, stuffed cabbage, no, stuffed pepper, fried okra and cabbage. Yummy. Right? And this is only $6. It's really good country food and this lady, she comes from here, she knows everyone has no money, right? So, so for that, things are gone. Who's part of the
I refreshed your water.
Yummy.
Coffee. And there's a knife for you. Anything else for you?
All good.
All right.
So, he met me. He said, "Man, I need you in my schools. You're amazing." Yeah, well, and little process of, and I said, "I don't want to be a substitute teacher. I want to be a teacher's assistant." Huh? Because pretty much we'll hire anybody to do that. And so, and there's this really cute little school that's only about 6 miles from my house, which my car could get to. And everybody there, went and met them all. And they just loved me. My kids love me, but the powers that be, basically, stated, well, oh yeah, this guy's cool, but we're still processing his paperwork. People at school said, well, he just wants to be a teacher. Said he doesn't need it. And so it's pretty obvious. I'm a little. I talked to the student body one time. And I said, listen, I'm not going to teach you a set curriculum by your textbook. No. I'm going to teach you how to learn. How to be a decider. How to be an A student on a roll for the rest of your, from kindergarten up. And they're very much a sports kind of thing. And their big sport is basketball. Because, they live in a mountain range and don't have any property for a football field, or that's pretty expensive. And I have a big gym. It's built in the 50s. So they got a big, basketball thing. So, I was there, and before the kids got on the bus, I basically have them there. Everybody's going to basketball. Right? Some of these kids are big and amazing. So I'm all looking at them, and it's pretty obvious they're these 6th, 7th, 8th graders that are going to high school. And they've been doing this since they were kindergarten, so they're pretty good. So these guys, and they got basketball nets at either end that you play, But they got about 5 or 6 other basketball nets with a paint and a line where lots of people can be playing at the same time. Yeah. Really serious guys. Oh, they're in their own basket. And they're doing 3-pointers and from the paint, from the line. And I'm watching them, and they're hitting 3 out of 6, 50-50. Well, the one guy, there was about 4 kids, maybe getting 4 out of 6, right? Everyone's gotten pretty much 3 out of 6. The better ones are getting 4 or 5 out of 6. Oh, I go over there, and they've gotten to know me enough. And instead of calling me Mr. So-and-so, I told them to all call me Sensei. Right? Everyone's going Sensei. And that's kind of cute. Anyway, so I go, listen, guys, I'm going to say something. I do not play basketball. So give me the ball. And so I shoot it, and I don't even get 1 out of 6. I said, now watch this. I close my eyes. I visualize that I have my eyes closed, and I'm wearing these, right? I'm wearing these. I look like Stevie Wonder. So I said, now what's this? And I take them off, and I have my eyes totally closed. And I said, swoosh, 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 swoosh. And I just keep doing it, swoosh, swoosh, till I get about 12. And then I stop. You got some like pushing my luck. They're all like, How'd you do that? You weren't even looking. I said, that's right. How was I doing that? I was visualizing. Right? I was seeing myself able to, I can't play basketball. My arms are killing me. But with God's love in my heart and Jesus' unconditional forgiveness in my head, and you kept saying, how would Jesus do this? What? 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 I said, okay, you guys, with your eyes closed. I said, oh, no. Don't say you're going to try. Do. Okay. So the kid who's the smallest, I think in 5th grade, he really is. I mean, he's half the size of these other kids. But man, he is just revved up. He runs up and down and up and down and up and down just to run up and down. So he gets up there, swish. I said, visualize. Do you see it? Do you see it? Mm-hmm. How would Jesus? Yep. Mm-hmm. How would Jesus? Yep. Okay, I see it. I see it. You feel God's love in your heart for you throwing his basketball. Yep, I see it. I feel it. Swish, 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 swish. He gets more than 12. I mean, he's getting towards 16. I go, okay, that's it. And they're all like, because he's the little guy. Right? I mean, they know he's good. He's going to be really great when he gets their age. But, you're great. So, I said, okay. This is what you need to do. He's going to be a teacher. He's a sunset. Right? Because he just showed you can do it. He's going to be the person who gives you a pep talk. Right? Now, he's done that. And then I'm walking around. So there's like almost 200 kids out there just throwing basketballs all over the place. And I'm having to make sure I don't get hit in the head by them. And there are about 10 little ones, like 3rd grade, who actually, they're like only 2 foot tall, and they were getting it in the basket. It's like, Well, I'm going to talk to them. I said, you're the new crew. I go, new crew? Yep. Those are the old kids, right? Everyone looks up to them. They play really good here. They're going on to high school and going to be foot basketball stars, right? So you're in line for that. Not to realize these kids are holler kids. And they live in that accordion mountain range between the Appalachian and the Blue Ridge. Between Kentucky up here, Tennessee, North Carolina here, Virginia. They're like switch right between. And what's very interesting, people look, I'm a social scientist, and people normally look in America, sociologically, psychologically, economically, and they draw lines. No. Same issues that are in the hood are out here in the holler. When I moved in this neck of the woods 20 years ago, population was 19,000 in the 3 counties. And a good portion of the population were what were known as truck farmers, right? And they were making, in 1999, they were making close to 25 grand a year. That's pretty good. Today, average income here is $3,000 a year. And the population went from 19,000 down to 3,000. The largest cause of death, diet, tobacco, OxyContin. It's the same statistics as the folk in the urban poverty, food desert. No, so these kids are in the same place. I mean, listen to the same music. They in the same place. So anyway, so I get these, 3rd graders, 4th, 5th graders, in the new crew. Got 10 of them. I put them on the line. I start telling them how biz life. And I brought back to the old kids who were about to go to high school and be stars. And this is one kid who's really nice, and he is the best. He is really like a white Michael Jordan. He's truly amazing. And his mom is the cook there. So she's very nice. But her brother died of oxy. Her daddy died of meth. Mom died of cancer of the gums because her mom had been chewing tobacco since she was 6. Virtually half these kids have no teeth because they've been chewing tobacco since they're 6. Right? Anyway, well, I go get the Michael Jordan and bring him over to New Creek. I said, now these are your new sensei. Because he got it. And as soon as I visualized it, he got it. And he went off to another rim that no one was using, and he was doing it without those other guys. Because they were just kind of not getting it. And the little guy, he loved the fact that I put him in charge, and he's a Virgo. I put him in charge. Anyway, I'm doing all this, in the space of maybe 15 minutes. I've done this, right? And the principal and the vice principal and the counselor are watching me do this. And then I bring the Michael Jordan kid, and he's got the, 4th, 5th, and, 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders shooting. And not just boys, girls. Like, the girls are as good athletes as the boys, and some of those girls are way better. A couple of weeks ago, I was there, and they were having a end of summer party for all the kids before school started. Well, they had all kinds. They got the blow up things that you can bounce on, and all kinds of stuff. And I was there, being part of that, and so. They also had bombardment, And then when you got that little red ball and you throw it up, and if you don't catch it, it bounces off you, you're out, right? Well, there were boys and girls playing this, and there were 4 girls. That was amazing. Because they played football, and they were throwing that bombardment ball like a softball, like at 120 miles an hour. And it was really great because they'd be looking over there through the side of their eye. They'd see the person over there, and they would throw that one. The person wouldn't even see it coming. And they were just mercilessly, right? And the thing that was great was they went after the big mouth boys first. And when there was just little kids left, they decided to split in, half of them go to the other team. And, these kids are amazing. But, all kids are amazing. And it's just the institutions that are there to destroy whatever will, love, spirit within these little kids by the time they get to high school. So, I call them the brain trust, the people who run that little school. And they said, wow, that was amazing. We really do need you. We tell the people, so I went by and farm for that. And they just said, how would you like to just keep dropping by and doing what you're doing? So I really need some money. Why don't you just make the collection? We can't do that. If you're getting money for doing this, you got to get it from the school system. And they seemingly haven't found anything wrong with you. They've looked into you deeper and deeper and find that you are what you say you are. And for some reason, an intimidation. I tell you what, I got along with the guy who's the chief guy there at the head office. I got along with him pretty good. She goes, that's just one. There's this big institutional set that, I'm threatened by you. You intimidate them. Me? You're a little sense of Bob. Intimidate you? I can barely walk. Anyway. So the guy who's head ahead, he said, these really rich people coming and buying everything and making these gated communities and doing all this stuff, and it's like it's worse than what it was before they even showed up. And I'm going to them and said, why don't you help us do some social act? Oh yeah, we'd love to do that. We'd love to help the community. So he said, why don't you be our community outreach guy? I said, you got a salary for that? He said, well, we'll get them to pay you. I said, okay. So I went and visited all those guys. I gave them a whole bunch of ideas. Wow, that's really good. Yeah, oh yeah. But so I said, so how about a job? Oh, well, we'll talk about it. He took my ideas. He was trying to implement them. Well, not in the way that I would have done. I was basically going to say, you're coming in here to disrupt the whole economy in this neighborhood. You need to employ the people who live there. If you really want to do some social activism. And they were like, oh yeah, well, people who are in their middle management, who come from the hollers, neighborhoods, well, they have, like the Hatfields and McCoys. Don't know. They're going to use these rich people to destroy the people they don't like in their communities, which will totally destroy. This one lady, which lives right there, she's like pushing to get a Dollar General right in the last refuge where there isn't one. And that would we have 8. When I got here, there was no Dollar Generals. There were these things I called holler stores, right? And they're all gone. And those holler stores employed anywhere from 20 to 50 people. Dollar Generals employ 3. So, and that lady, or at least that one lady, she comes from here, and she's had a bad time in grammar school and high school, and so she's now got a little power, so she's doing everything she can to eat up, So if people really wanted to do a soap opera, that's it. This place is no different than any place else, and you can take it all the way to, the conflict between the West and the East, right? Between NATO and Putin. And people do not want to realize they're being played, and that this unipolar Hail Hydra, I keep saying Hail Hydra, because Stan Lee, he got it. He and that's why he did comic books, because he saw what was going on. He talked to people. Nobody wanted to even listen. So okay, good. I've been a kid. As a kid, I liked drawing. I loved reading comics. I loved drawing them. Out of World War II, went off to get educated. I'm going to tell this story in a comic book for kids. Captain America. We just got out of World War II, and that would resonate. And then the Cold War started. He started the X-Men, right? Tell you that story. Under World War II, about Japan and Germany were bombed into Stone Age. But in both those countries, there were elements that were transnational, weren't just nationalistic. In Japan, they weren't just all for the emperor, right? No, they had world domineering countries. And they, like I said, they were transnational. They weren't just going for their racial crew. Even though, like Japan and Germany are probably the most nationalist, countries on the planet. But, Captain America talks about, Hydra, and that's really it. When Ian Fleming, the guy who wrote James Bond books, one of those books were put in the imagery of Cold War. Russia against America and England, and what was his crew called Smersh. Who, the guy with the white cat that you never saw, Doctor Strange, Dr. No, with the rubber hands. So, all of this is what's actually going on. And in 1988, I was living in the Lower East Side. I was part of a housing coalition. Took over the homestead back in 1873. Took over properties that was owned by the state. Had people living in them. Right? And I, as a master electrician, put legal electricity in all these buildings and gave everyone an electric bill. So for $25 a month, they got a beautiful apartment. I mean, they fixed it up themselves. We taught them how to do it. We gave them careers in trades. So, much is good. Still got half of it left. So, anyway, I went up to Brazil and had quite the, this group of people, investors. Saw what I did with Xenons and Kamikazes and Mud Club and the Tunnel Club and Danceteria and Wetlands. These are all places that I basically, they were all big clubs. And, contractors, did all the building, concrete, electrical union guys went in and put new services in and put the pipe and ran the wires. But when it came time to make it blink and light and do really lighting magic, they weren't that, that wasn't their thing. So, they couldn't make it work, but everything was there. The hard work was done. So I came in and tweaked everything, and I would get all the credit for making it. He wired it. No, I basically made it work and made it great and made it groovy, and that's what made me the dude and the dude, the wizard of the EMF spectrum. And one day it was in my abandoned building, and I got a phone installed in the abandoned building, which is hard to get, right? But I had wires, the long lines building that was down in Tribeca. It's about 30 stories high, about 120 stories deep. It's like a super duper, again, Hell Hydra kind of facility. And I worked on that. And that was quite interesting. So anyway, I knew people in the television. And plus, in the 70s and 80s, before New York City really got fibered out, they were starting to bring in, cash machines. They needed secure lines from those instruments to their database. They couldn't depend on phone lines, so they put up a microwave. And when Bill Clinton had deregulated investment business, the banking investment business, and the New York Stock, all the exchanges went really digital. They really needed a certain level of security. Well, they had microwaves, little microwave antennas, and of course Mike was my electrical mentor, the son of Grandpa. The local three guy had a big shop, and he would do anything. Well, in a lot of houses, we only do this or we only do that. He did everything. And Grandpa did all the old stuff. So I was, brought up between the two of them. We would do almost anything. Cutting edge, that was Mike. Skyscrapers, you name it. I mean, that's how I worked on the World Trade Center. That's why I know the World Trade Center was not brought down by those two airplanes or people with explosives in them. No. They were brought down by space-based weapons. So if you ever go behind that image that they showed over and over and over and over again, where the World Trade Centers, both buildings, the two towers, came straight down, right? Not over, straight down. And as they came down, they turned into dust. And that's why over 1 million people who lived and worked in Tribeca, Wall Street area, died of lung cancer, right? All the guys who worked in the pit, all the firemen, first responders, policemen, and the people who lived down there. When that happened, when 9/11 happened, I was living in Virginia, in Roanoke, and there was a coffee shop, Mill Mountain, that was downtown. It was my hangout. And I just put the lady who was the manager, let me do anything in that place. And so I did my art on the walls, right? And the owner, when I started doing it, what are you doing to my walls? I said, nothing. Because I had all of this, I had worked for Xerox, so I had tons and tons of art that I had made using this gigantic Xerox machine that printed, like, it was basically a blueprint printer without being the blueprint printer. It was a Xerox machine. So it was a lot easier, quicker, less stinkier than blueprints, right? And you could have the images, and Xerox should have, gotten a corner of the, should have been the Apple, because they were already, electronic industrial force. And what happened was Grandpa Xerox went out to California. I mean, he already was living out there. And he bought all the property around near Stanford and San Francisco, between Stanford and San Francisco, that became Silicon Valley. And he started, he was the first guy to have, a campus called Xerox Park. And that's why he was developing digital, in developing the digital office. Before that, in the 70s, I was working late 70s, early 80s. I worked for George and George. They were they still are, amazing theater building company. So they would take, a large Broadway theater, rip out the stage, and rebuild it so they could do shows like Lion King or Cats, where parts of the stage would disappear and go under, and they did Cirque du Soleil in Las Vegas. They're really interesting crew. So those guys, and they were just starting, and they had their first big shop out there in the South Bronx, right near the Hudson River, between the Hudson and the East River, but Harlem River, and Gowanus over there in Queens. They had a really big. It had been like a steel mill, big buildings, high ceilings, big cranes, and so over there in Gowanus was in the 1890s, big industrial area, right? And back before Chicago and Illinois, and before you could get to the Great Lakes from the Atlantic with the Erie Canal, that area was the big industry. That was like the Detroit of America, was Queens, right? And so I was up there fooling around, looking. They had great dumps. I was up there with Adam Purple, and we were looking for big, deep storage batteries. Like from tugboats, right? Really gigantic, batteries the size of cars and deep storage. So we get those, and usually what would happen is inside the batteries, the place they weren't really dead. They were just kind of dead. And normally they would just be used too much to the point where they overheated and then a plate would burn out. But we take it apart, look for that, take that plate out, put a similar dielectric in there and weld it up, and we're great, right? We tweak it up a bit, we're great. So so that's how I got up in that neck of the woods, and I lived in a really nice courthouse up there, right? It was right at the end of the 7 train, and it had its own station. And so, and of course, the station had been closed because they closed down the courthouse. Anyway, so I was hanging out up there, and I knew the Greens. The Green family was the predominant. They were like the godfathers. Mrs. Green, Grandma Green was the godmother of crime in Harlem. She did basically numbers, right? And Eddie was my bud from kidhood. His brother, what was his brother? Stephen. Those two went into cocaine big time and into clubs, right? They had a lot of clubs. So why'd their clubs, right? And that movie, American Gangster, that what's his name, the black actor was in, that was based on their family, the Green family. And so, and basically, Iran-Contra destroyed that family. Took a nice family business and turned it into. And Iran-Contra did that to the whole. See, you don't understand. Iran-Contra was not about getting, the Contras weapons. We gave them a ton of weapons, right? Even after the Congress said not to do it, we still gave it to them, right? No, it was to build. Ollie North built a whole intelligence alien intelligence entity based in the CIA, the NSA, all of those guys, based on the Nazis put that together. Operation Paperclip. We brought 70,000 Nazis into this country. Wernher von Braun, this is the poster boy of it, right? So good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland. It's about 40 minutes and 40 seconds. I've been telling this story here. And I've been all over the place, right? Because everything I've told you so far connects. It's not like separate stories or coming from different lines. It's all interconnected, right? Because we are because when 2012 happened, when we went from the Mayan calendar into Aquarius, when we went from Pisces into Aquarius, the dynamic is love, co-creation is all that is, and it's becoming more and more evident. So the only way they can fight it is by making the physical mud puppet world eviler, disgusting, and turning people into evil, disgusting people. Now, their spirit isn't that, because their spirit is love's co-creation. That's what it is. But it's way over here, and this mud puppet that was given to us, and that wasn't a sin. We chose when we were in the garden to get this physicality so we could learn quicker, that we could ascend, evolve, right? But we got distracted because our bodies have all these senses, and it's pretty easy to get distracted, right? Now, our soul is this kind of fiber optic line that connects our avatar mud puppet to our spirit, which is love's co-creation, God. We are God, not singularly, but collectively, right? And that's what we're doing here, right? To learn this stuff. And so we chose, we were given the choice, because we have free will, to be what we are. We've just gone astray. And Satan, the illuminated one, who is a snake oil salesman who negotiated the deal, had his own idea of how for us to get ascended, right? So again, you have to realize good and bad is almost irrelevant because it's so subjective, right? One man's good is another man's bad, So, and that's what the war in Ukraine is all about. It's the real conflict is the choice between unconditional love and conditional love, right? Conditional love is lad going, you do what I say or else I'll kill you. And, conditional love is Ukraine say, you do what we say or we're going to kill you, right? So it's going to be a lot of killing. And the people who are, enabling this, like guys like Lockheed and General Dynamics and the companies, and I mean, everybody in NATO's got a military industrial complex making money on this. And, oh my God, we don't have natural gas. We're going to freeze to death. Well, good luck with that, because, in 1972, so see all of what's going on. I was just, I was part of the UN. I was part of a NGO called Alternative Technologies, and we were trying to figure really simple things that would help the most people out. And our first and best that we hit it out of the park was, I got there, and everyone else had beautiful. All the NGOs had these gorgeous, offices with big carpets and fancy stuff. And so we got there because a group of us had done some pretty amazing things. And so different groups, mostly the third world, said, hey, these guys are pretty interesting. Why don't we get them into their own NGO? So they did. And I don't know if you've ever seen the UN building in New York on 2nd Avenue. So there's this General Assembly building, it looks like a flying saucer. And then there is this rectangle that looks like, the 2001 obelisk. you know, the same shape. And the two sides are these windows. I mean, just, mirrored surfaces that are kind of black. And on the edge, they have this mica on either side, a really super duper reflective crystalline material. And the building this way, where all the windows are, is maybe almost 1,000 feet long and wide. It's maybe 200 to 300 feet wide, right? So on the strips on the wide, they just have this super duper reflective material, white crystalline, no windows, and that's where they have all the air chillers and elevator machines and all the stuff that you don't want people to see. So the inside of the building, that has all the windows, it's gorgeous and beautiful, and not a lot of walls, not a lot of columns, not it's built similarly to the World Trade Center, that had an exoskeleton that supported a whole building. Each floor of the World Trade Center was an acre big. Just get that in your head, an acre, right? So it's 160 stories. It's like 160 acres big, right? And it had no columns, right? But the outside of the building was a cage, right? With steel this thick. No way could a 767 or whatever aircraft flew into those buildings if they did. I mean, those aircrafts are made out of thin aluminum. They're like, they're basically thermos bottles with engines on them. And, the design of the building was to survive a simultaneous hit of two 707s, which were just as big and bigger and heavier because they were made out of bigger and heavier materials than the 767. So it was designed so the airplane would fly into the building and smash on the outside and fall down. And that's in 1940-something or 30-something, a B-25 flew into the Empire State Building. It did exactly that. It's, going about 200 miles an hour. It's a foggy night. They don't see it. Whammo. They fly right into the Empire State Building. Did the Empire State Building fall over? No. It caught fire, but the fire went out after a while, right? And the airplane was stuck there and fell down right into that. Hey, man. Always good. And so, and that was, the theory of the World Trade Center. And so the UN was built, good 20 years before, in the 50s, and the World Trade Center was built in the 70s. So anyway, we had our own office, but it was it was this big space that was maybe 20, 30 feet deep and about 150, 200 feet wide. And it was the end of the building, no windows except at this end. And no plushy carpets or IKEA furniture or anything. It was just like, it's where they had, the janitor kept his bucket. So anyway, that was our office. I think on the 20-something floor. And at the ends, we had about, 20 feet of windows. That's where we put our desks, and there were no walls or anything. It was mostly, we had some, we could manufacture, we could test, we could do a lot of interesting things. Now, it wouldn't let us play with anything that would start a fire, but we had sprinklers above us. And so anyway, the first thing we did, I went and talked to everybody, and the most interesting were the UNICEF folk because they were they were everywhere, right, trying to help everybody. And so we said, so what's up? What is the biggest problem that the third world has? The guys that you try to save, the kids. That all the kids in America and Europe are putting pennies in milk containers, What are you really trying to do? I mean, what would do the best? What would, one simple thing? And they said, well, the biggest problem that kills more people is unpotable water. There is no drinking water. I mean, there's plenty of water all over the place, but it's poison, right? Between, it's mostly human waste that's in there or animal waste, and people drink it and, they die. So, okay. You could deal with that. And I said, okay. So I said, now, Second, what is the most, environmental thing that the first world is dumping on these people? And I said, well, two things. Three things. War, conflict, which is artificially manifested because the imperial folk went in and drew lines around countries and made sure that two warring classes, Houthis and Tutsis, would be in the same country. So, of course, they're going to kill each other, right? And then they gave them a lot of weapons, right? And so that's number one. Number two is extraction of mineral, oil, gold, right? And every country that has no mineral wealth has peace. Every country that has mineral wealth has war, right? So that's number two. And number three is that between the warring thing and the extraction thing, they are leaving just a god awful amount of garbage. You name it, it's there, right? And the worst of the worst is the soda bottles, because people buy them. But basically, that product is being dumped on those people because, yes, this sugary soda water isn't good for you, but it won't kill you. So they're getting these 2-liter bottles of soda, and that's what they're drinking. And yes, it's causing. And so they didn't get quite the diabetes we got from drinking Mountain Dew. They got other problems. And so, how are we doing on the juice here? We're getting low. So good morning, good evening, good afternoon. We've been here for 51 minutes and 51 seconds. There's two of you there, and only one thumbs up. And I mean, I've been laying down some pretty interesting information, and I mean, this is valuable. When I was in a couple, I used to get paid big bucks for this kind of stuff, but it just shows how unconscious and how ready you are to suffer. You're going to suffer big time. You just can't imagine what's coming your way. Just, been trying to, the last 3 years I've been talking about the big splat, but, so you can't even put anything in my PayPal. It's like so tough. Oh, I can't put $5 or $10. Back in the day, people used to put $300-400 in Cecile Bob's the Dudawake42 at Gmail, Dudawake42 at Gmail, Dudawake40, and they would talk and give interesting, conversations. People have been. Let's see. That's Frederick. Nice streams. I miss John. Thomas Land. What happened to John? Still alive? Well, John is again. John is the canary in the social coal mine. John is you. I have appreciated John as an artistic essence. Somebody once gave me a hard time. Why do you tell John that he's such a good actor and filmmaker and you're just stringing him along? I said, no, he is all of that. He's just so nihilistic. John is the perfect example of you out there because you're so focused on yourself. It's all about you. It's all about you. All about you. All about you. All about you. I hate my mommy and daddy because what they did. Oh, everyone in my town hates me until blah blah blah. Well, we all have a bit of that. We're all meat puppets. We all live in this illusionary material world. But I've been blessed with great teachers and great things in my life. And I've died so many times that I realized that death is a big deal, and that I came back this time because someone said, okay, you've been doing a great job, buddy. You just need, you've got 11% more to do. And then when you die this next time, or the time after, I still got 2 lives to go. And I'm supposed to, have a third love, a major love in my life that I have a child with. That might be interesting. So that should be interesting. So, I got somewhere between 12 and 20 years left. And the more I do this kind of stuff, the YouTube, this was given to me as a blessing, not to become rich and famous, but to drop that pebble into the shamanic pond, right? To be the servant to love's co-creation. Now that's John's problem. Is that he has it in him to be, because he's all talking about Jesus and God and stuff, but that's his religion. So let's see, he hasn't seen his kids in 7 years. It's so hard to go to, no, once you have kids, your life is about your children, not about you. That's what it's about. That's why the world is so screwed up, is because the majority of people don't do that. And then they try and buy their kids off. Oh, I'll give you a bike. Anyway, so, when you say what happened to John, just go look at his channel. I mean, he's almost like a geisha girl, the way he makes himself up. I mean, look at me. I don't, I'm not doing 400 push-ups. No, but I've lost 240 pounds. Well, because I had to. Otherwise, I'd be dead. Right? So I lost 240 pounds. And how does that happen? Not through, basically, exercise just gives the motion to the ocean, right? And because we are a bag of water. And our diet is, garbage in, garbage out. So you got to put pretty good stuff in. But the problem with our civilization is that the powers that be are giving us just poison to eat. So, But when you are consciously intent and consciously aware, you can then be consciously do your best. So everything you do, everything you can do your best. Now you're not perfect, don't have to be perfect, but because striving for perfection is ego. No one's perfect, right? Period. You can do your best, and by striving for perfection, you miss the mark by miles, right? And so that's John. He wants to strive for perfection, and he gets what he gets, right? This really kind of amazing. He's like Frank, he is in Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. That book is not about sci-fi monsters, no. The creature, they call him the creature. I never call him the monster, creature, right? And it's a story that was all around her, in that no matter what socioeconomic group, the parents were so focused on themselves nihilistically that they made their children's life miserable, right? Read Dickens, Christmas Carol, great story about Scrooge. You see, he started out as this lovable little guy, turned into Scrooge, right? And, it's a book, starred Scrooge's partner, and Marley. Marley was dead to begin with. That's John. He's basically, he just, I just want to die. 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 He ain't dying anytime soon, right? But he's already dead because he's already dead. He's John Birmingham is a perfect example of when I was up there in Ithaca, New York, at Cornell. I lived in this little town outside of Ithaca called Varna. And Verna had this little volunteer. It's where the state troopers had their little barracks, and there was a volunteer fire department. And I lived right across the street from it, right? And I would see these really pretty girls go into this building. Well, not every day. I was busy doing other stuff at Cornell, and I had 2 other jobs. So anyway, one day I saw these 3 really attractive women go into this building. So I said, I have to figure out what these girls are doing in there. So I walk across the highway and go in the building, open the door, go in there, and there's all these fire trucks. And like 20 women and 2 guys, right? One's old, older than me at this time. And these other 2 young lads who were kind of in high school. And the rest were girls, women. So I said, well, what is this place? And the girl said, this is a volunteer fire department. You want to join? I look at the girls and go, yeah, yeah. And look at what competition I had with the guys, old guy, and the 2 teenage boys. And when I said, "What's this?" The girl, you want to join? The guys looked at me like, so I joined, And it was very interesting. So they say, you live right across the street. We want you to be, the ambulance driver, or we want you checked out and certified to drive the pump. So they had a big pump, and that was like a rolling warehouse of tools. It had power, it had hydraulics, it had pneumatics, you name it. And we had this really super duper ambulance that was like a rolling hospital, right? So they sent me off to school to learn how to drive those because I was right across the street. So the average, especially at night, that if I was home, I'd be right across the street, right? And so I could drive it to the site. And this place was very busy because there were two things that went on. One was an interstate where two interstates, 91 and whatever the other one was, instead of having, cloverleaf, it just did this. So big trucks going one way would run over little cars trying to go that way. So we had 5 or 6 war zone kind of accidents a week, right? Some really, really horrific. The worst one is this soccer mom had 3 little girls in the back, 7th grade, 5th grade, and 2nd grade. And she, was going along talking to the kids and be like, "Oh, I have to go over there," and she just shot across to try and make the turn, and got hit by a truck that shot her in the air, up in the air, and she went head on into the oncoming traffic. So she was up in the air doing, this and doing about 80 and smacked straight into a tractor trailer and flipped it over on its back. And the driving column went right through the mother and went through the chair and went through the girl behind her, through her head. So mom got it in the heart, and older sister got it in the head. And they were like a shish kebab, And the girl who was sitting over there, she wasn't wearing, none of them were wearing a safety belt. And the little girl over there, the one in 5th grade, the car was flipping around, so she was bouncing all over the place. And the only thing that kept mom and older sister from bouncing around was that they were shish kebab through 2 seats, right? And the other girl was bouncing around, and her head smashed through one of the windows. And then when the vehicle came down, her head was outside the vehicle. So she was headless, and her whole head was squished about 50 yards along the highway. And the little girl, because she was little, was put down into the wheel well. And then the engine came up beside her, didn't touch her, but kind of stuck her in there so she couldn't get out, right? And we arrived, and it was like, and luckily for the little girl, the gas tank of the soccer mom's van was ripped off the car, and it was over there, and it had gone through another car, and that car and the people were on fire. Truck driver dead, older girl and mom shish kebab, middle girl headless, squished on the floor, burned alive, barbecued people over there, and that was the worst. But on the average, we had one of those a week. Now the other really bad thing was there was this trailer park that was like an old folks home, and it was mostly old guys, right? And they didn't own the trailers. This guy owned the trailers, and he was getting money from, Medicaid, and saying, he was licensed, old folk place. But I mean, they were treated, they were like, get, meals that were unedible. They got virtually no health care. This guy was taking it to the bank, right? And he'd be, and having them in there, and then they die, and he wouldn't say that they died. He had a mortuary, and he would stick them over there for months in a freezer, and then say, "Oh, okay, they died." I mean, it was really bizarre. I mean, it's again straight out of Dickens, right? Straight out of are there no work camps? Aren't there no? Anyway, so those are the two places that we would, for 3 years. And I mean, we would get other things. About 3 years, we trained to be firemen, fire people. And so we only went to one fire. Right? And I mean, we would set buildings on fire. The ones the county wanted to get rid of, we would set on fire and practice putting them out. So anyway, and the girls were great. And it was like a big family. When we would go to these horrific things, the girls would have to burn off a lot of that angst. So we would party like it was 1999. So for 3 years, I partied like it was 1999 with these girls. And it was just, two high school boys. It just fell in. They didn't realize. And back in that day, New York State, if you were a high school kid and you joined a volunteer fire department, they would basically pay your college if you went to a state school. So, and everybody who went to who lived in that neck of the woods, Cornell, big time, super duper college. I mean, very impressive if you graduate from that school. Well, they had a veterinarian school that was run by the state. So you could go to Cornell and get a veterinarian degree, but you could also get a degree in whatever else you wanted to, and the state would pay for it. And they had about 5 other schools. They had a school of hospitality, hotels and restaurants. They had a number that were run by the state. You went to that school, the state paid your nickel. So, and there were a lot of young ladies who were going to Cornell doing that because they had lived in the surrounding 3 counties and were in volunteer fire departments. Anyway, so, and they all gravitated to this one because they would be in other ones and the guys would give them a hard time. So this was like virtually, 98% women. And we would go, the fire departments would have these competitions and we would kick butt there wasn't, we could get people out of cars because of that. Our big truck had every kind of tool, the jaws of life, and we had every kind of high-tech space age, you name it, we had it. Right? But this is like, 1987, 88, 89. And anyway, so I've been studying it, so that's what I was doing at Cornell. They were paying me to study everything. I was developing this whole concept of shamanic, psychosocial, cultural, forensic, anthropologic, alchemy. And they were grooving on that, and my boss really loved it too. So, and if you go read any of that, you will find most of the literature coming out of Cornell, and you may find, my name somewhere there. But that was like what I was doing. And again, they paid me pretty well for just doing the heck what I wanted to, and it let me do anything else I wanted to. Meaning, I'd be in a meeting, my little beeper would go, I gotta go. I was like Superman. I had to go drive the fire truck. Right? And sometimes I would drive the fire truck because both these vehicles weren't gigantic. They were kind of small because they could get into places that other fire trucks couldn't get into. So, but they had more equipment and more capabilities that any of these gigantic things had. So, I remember I used to drive the ambulance to because at that time I got to be. So I went and got trained how to drive these vehicles, right? And the guy said, "Well, we're going to have an EMT class. As soon as you finish this, you must stick around and do that." I said, "Do I get paid?" "Oh yeah." So I did that. And then he goes, as soon as it's done, we're going to have this first responder course. You want to take that? Sure. Yeah, I took that, right? Then he goes, there's one more thing you could take. I said, what's that? He goes, well, we have these things called surgical EMTs. I go, surgical EMTs? Oh, yeah, that's for guys who get trained and have the apparatus on their ambulance where they're telemetrically connected with the hospital and the doctor, if you need to do a tracheostomy or, they're ripped open and you need to clamp up some arteries or any of the above, you would be checked out to do that. I said, well, that sounds cool. Do I get paid? Yep. Okay. So in a space of 6 weeks, I got all of those, I got to be like a surgeon. and again, different groups of people came in. They were just more fun than a barrel of monkeys. And so they were putting me up in a really nice hotel It had a bar and a club and a nice restaurant and a jacuzzi and a gym yeah, and those the other guys who came from different parts of the state they weren't put in such a nice place, so we would just party, party, party. So for 6 weeks, I got certified to do all of this stuff, and I was like Snowden. He got to where he was. He didn't get a single degree. He just was in the right place at the right time and got certified for X, Y, and Z. And it was really brilliant, right? So, and his grandfather was the number one admiral of the Coast Guard or the Merchant Marines, and his father was a captain, and so he had a real pedigree. I had a similar one. My dad was a colonel of the Strategic Air Command, and I'd gone and seen above ground nuclear tests and hung out where all these places my dad would go. Hey, you want to go? Sure, Dad. I got to sit inside of a B-58 Hustler, when it was taking off, and gonna go do a simulated nuclear run on Chicago, At 6, that's pretty. They put me in the smallest, spacesuit they could find, and those guys who flew those airplanes, they were like, it was rough. So anyway, not as rough as a B-17. Those guys were flying at around 30,000 feet, which is almost outer space, and they were freezing to death, and had to walk around with oxygen hoses that were 60 feet long, and if they snapped off the thing, they fall over and die. And a lot of guys are just their apparatus froze up or the hose broke, and they where's Bob? I don't know. And thanks, Skippy. Fish. Holding it's never a mic. I don't know. You can't hear me again? I mean, I haven't changed anything. I'm not holding anything. I'm not touching anything. The thing has been on the table the whole time. If you can't hear me, it's because you don't want to hear me. Oh, look at that. 1 hour, 11 minutes, and 11 seconds. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. There's 2 of you. Why don't you send me some money on PayPal, And that's the dudewake42 at Gmail, dudewake42 at Gmail. Now, all of you folks who I used to call up on the phone, I don't do it now because it's not that I don't love you. I love you. It's just that I have no money. I have no money to put in the, I have no cell signal. For some reason, I used to 60% of the time would be able to get a cell signal out of the deep green. Now, not at all. Once in a blue moon. Oh, look, 1/100th of a bar. Let's try and call somebody. Right? So, anyway, and it's just a sign of what's going on in the world. And, oh, babies, you don't have a clue what's coming. Nuclear war, for one. And, I saw an above ground nuclear test, and the big radioactive cloud blew over me. Yeah, I mean, when my dad put a lead cape over me, and ground zero, everyone turn around away from the blast. We pulled it, and they, okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then you hear nothing, and you don't see anything. It's unbelievably bright light, and I had a lead cape over me, and I could still see the light. Right, and I was not facing it; I was facing away, and I kind of did. And I was wearing welder's goggles, and I was all gooped up. And anyway, about 20 seconds after that, all right, look. My dad turned me around. He goes, "Put your hand in front of your face." I did, and I could see the bones in my hand. Well, I'm in my 70s. I'm doing pretty good, So you can survive nuclear war unless it blows up right on you, and if it does, and then you thank your lucky stars because you won't survive. You'll be blown into dust. And all of you folks who live near any kind of big city, Nashville, St. Louis, Chicago, any place, you're gonna be fried. And depending on a lot of people survive Hiroshima and Nagasaki. My teacher, my mentor, my numero uno sensei, Tasha K, he was, his dad his family were Shinto priests, and he was on that little island in Hiroshima or Nagasaki, right where the river goes through, right there. And they Air Force was using that as ground zero. They were aiming the bomb, blow up right above it, and it didn't even get touched. Says a lot for energetics. And a lot of people survived because of that. Right? Let's see. How much battery we got left? Oh, about 11%. So I'm going to have to go pretty soon.
Please leave your message for
Blah, 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 blah. Anyway, so yeah, I'm going to go now. The battery's about to go. And what time is it? Oh, it's 1:05. Yeah, I got things to do. So hope you're well. Hope you got something from this thing. And come on, send me something at the PayPal, the dudeawake42 at Gmail. Dudeawake42 at Gmail. And I was here, and I'm about in about a week, I won't be able to make a phone call. And I don't have any money to put into the phone. I have no money to put in the gas. This inflation is doing a job, and especially when you have no job. If I had a job, I wouldn't have to worry. If I was making an extra $300 a month, I'd be in Clover. I only live on $400 a month, and I'm still living in Clover. Pretty much that's my lawn, Clover. So, and my neighbor, who I do all kinds of things for, our little deal is he's supposed to mow my lawn. He hasn't done it all summer, and so what has occurred was a little bunny has shown up, and my little bunny he's not eating my garden. My little bunny is eating the lawn. And when I walk, from the man cave up to my lodge, I walk right by him. Like 5 feet. He just kind of looks up and smiles and goes back to chewing on the grass. So I really think my bunny is cousin to Bad Bunny. I think you've seen Bad Bunny. Oh, let's see if we can show you Bad Bunny here.
on the primary ballot.
Yep.
Let's talk about Wendy Rogers.
Who is Wendy Rogers?
Who's Wendy Rogers? Primary for state senator. And you describe her as
imagine that she won't blah, bad bunny, bad. Yeah, this is bubbled out. We are bubbling. We are just totally bubbled. Bubble to. Oh yeah. Godless environment. The enemy, that what's in. I told you, bubbles. It's the enemy. The bubbles are the enemy. This is the secret enemy. This is the deep state right here. The Bad Bunny. The Bad Bunny. The Bad Bunny. The Bad Bunny is taking control. The bubbles are taking over your mind. The bubbles are taking over your mind right now. The Bad Bunny. Bad Bunny. Bad Bunny. Bad Bunny.
Well, I hope you got something out of this, and send something to me, your Sensei Al Bob at PayPal, the dudeawake42 at Gmail, dudeawake42 at Gmail. Okay, I'm going to wait a few more seconds until we get, let's see how much time is left. 9 minutes, 9%, however many minutes, 9%. It's just two of you. There's 2 thumbs up. How about more thumbs up? How about some more comments? Let's see, talk about comments. Let's see what you guys have been saying. Let's see. Frederick, you have nice streams. I miss John. I promise. Land, South Carolina. What happened to John? Let's see. Fish. Ryan, thank you. see what the restricted message has to say. Restricted. Restricted from me. Your hand is holding near the mic. Who knows? I think so. I haven't touched the thing. So, okay. Talk to you later. I'm out of here. See where's the little red thing? Here it is. Do, 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 do.